Jason had always preferred the quiet, isolated life of a small-town mechanic. The sounds of creaking metal and whirring engines soothed him more than any human interaction could. His cabin sat at the edge of a dense forest, far away from the gossip of the nearby town, and that was just the way he liked it. It was a simple life. Or so he thought, until the night everything changed. It started as a flash, a bright, burning streak across the night sky, followed by a thundering crash. The ground shook beneath his feet as Jason dropped his wrench, cursing under his breath. He didn't need to be a scientist to know something had just come crashing down. Probably a meteorite. It wasn't the first time something from the sky had fallen around here. Grabbing his flashlight, Jason marched toward the source of the sound, a mix of curiosity and mild irritation in his chest. If it was just another piece of space junk, he'd probably have to deal with the authorities, and he didn't have the patience for that tonight. What he wasn't expecting, though, was the figure standing in the snow when he finally reached the crash site. The woman was strange. Tall, with glowing blue skin that shimmered in the moonlight, her hair a vibrant silver like strands of starlight itself. She was bundled up tightly, trembling from the cold, but there was something about her, something otherworldly, that made Jason freeze in his tracks. Her eyes met his, wide with urgency. "I am freezing, human. Let me in. I beg." Her voice was accented, but it wasn't just her words that made Jason pause. It was the way she spoke, the tone that almost sounded desperate. She was shaking, her lips blue, and she looked like she might collapse at any second. Jason took a hesitant step forward, the flashlight bobbing in his hand as he tried to process what was happening. Are you okay?" he asked, his voice rough. The woman's eyes widened even more, her gaze frantic as she held up her hands, palms open, and gestured for him to let her inside. "Please," she said again, and this time, it was more than a plea. "I need your warmth to survive. I require it. Please." Jason blinked. Warmth? What did she mean? His eyes scanned her strange attire. She wasn't dressed like anyone from around here, and those glowing tattoos on her arms weren't doing her any favors in blending in with the earthly landscape. She looked like she came straight out of some sci-fi movie, and Jason could already feel the confusion gnawing at him. The rational part of him told him to walk away. This was probably some sort of prank, a marketing stunt for a new movie or something, but the woman's pleading gaze shattered that logic. And damn, she was cold. All right, he muttered under his breath, not sure if he was doing the right thing but moving toward her anyway. "Come inside before you freeze to death." She let out a relieved sigh, her shoulders sagging slightly as if a massive weight had been lifted off them. Without waiting for him to make the next move, she quickly stepped past him and into the cabin, brushing off the snow from her strange suit. Jason felt a pang of discomfort as he shut the door behind her. Now that she was inside, he could get a better look at her. She wasn't just tall, she was beautiful in an ethereal way, with sharp features that almost looked too perfect, like something carved from marble. Her skin shimmered softly under the dim light of the cabin, and the odd patterns glowing across her arms seemed to pulse gently in time with her breathing. "You all right?" he asked again, his voice more gentle now as he pulled over a chair for her. "Here, sit down. You're shaking like a leaf." Her expression was earnest, though she seemed completely oblivious to how strange she looked to him. She lowered herself into the chair, her eyes still wide. "I am well," she said, her translation device sputtering for a second before it managed to speak in a much clearer voice. "I am Zyra. My ship has been damaged by space rocks. I seek refuge. You will grant it, yes?" Jason raised an eyebrow. "I guess? Yeah, you can stay until you warm up. Just don't break anything." Zyra smiled, and it was a strange smile, like she was trying her best to be polite but wasn't quite sure how to pull it off. "I will reward you," she said, her voice firm but sincere. "I am most grateful for your kindness." Jason blinked, unsure whether to laugh or feel awkward. "Reward me? What, like with money?" She tilted her head slightly, clearly confused. "I do not know what money is, human." But I will reward you with my warmth. Jason chuckled awkwardly, unsure how to respond to that. Yeah, that's real sweet of you. His sarcasm didn't seem to register with her, and instead, she simply nodded as if this was a perfectly reasonable exchange. She began to rub her hands together, her breath clouding in the frigid air. As she did, the glowing symbols on her arms began to glow brighter, casting an eerie light across the room. Jason watched in silence, his arms crossed, as Zyra continued to shiver, her teeth chattering now. Well, I got a heater in the back. It's not much, but it should help a bit, he said, standing up to show her to the back of the cabin. We can get you warmed up in there. Zyra followed him obediently, but just before she entered the back room, she turned around and grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly firm for someone so delicate-looking. She looked at him intently, the faint blue glow in her eyes almost unnerving. I will reward you, human, she said again, this time her voice softer, almost seductive. I will make you strong. Powerful. You will never forget the warmth I offer you. Jason froze, his heart skipping a beat. The way she said it sounded more like a threat than a promise, and the way she held his arm felt off. Was this some kind of alien seduction ritual? Or was he just overthinking things? His face flushed slightly, but he quickly cleared his throat. All right. No need to get weird, he muttered, pulling his arm away gently. Zyra's eyes widened, clearly misinterpreting his response. You are not yet ready for my reward, then? Jason blinked, his eyebrows knitting together in confusion. No. No, I'm not ready for whatever you think you're offering. Let's just get you warmed up, okay? She seemed disappointed, but Jason didn't know how to explain that he wasn't interested in whatever strange alien customs she was trying to offer. Zyra nodded, a slight frown on her face as she followed him into the back room. I will try again when I am stronger, she murmured, as if determined to make sure he understood her gratitude in whatever way she could. Jason watched her go, rubbing the back of his neck. What the hell was that all about? She didn't seem dangerous, just a little confused. Probably hadn't figured out the customs of Earth yet. But he couldn't help but feel there was something deeper to all of this. Sighing, he grabbed the heater remote and turned it on, setting the temperature higher than usual. Yeah, let's get you warmed up first, and then we can figure out whatever that was about. Little did Jason know, this was only the beginning. Zyra settled onto the worn couch in the back room, her blue skin now beginning to warm up under the heat from the space heater. Jason stood in the doorway, watching her with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. There was something undeniably strange about her beauty, her odd mannerisms, and the way her words seemed to get tangled in translation. He hadn't yet decided if she was simply lost or if there was something more to this encounter, but one thing was for sure, he had no idea how to handle this. Zyra, still shivering slightly, looked up at him with those glowing eyes and offered a smile that was both innocent and strangely alluring. You are kind, human. Very kind. I will return your favor, she said, the translation device giving her voice a smooth, almost musical tone. Jason shifted uncomfortably, scratching the back of his neck. I'm just trying to help you out, all right? I'm not really looking for any rewards or anything. Zyra cocked her head to the side, her eyes narrowing in confusion. But you said I could stay. You offered me warmth. That is a reward, is it not? Well, yeah, but... Jason started, but Zyra leaned forward, her gaze suddenly intense. I can offer much more, she purred, and the way she said it made the hair on the back of Jason's neck stand on end. She didn't seem threatening, quite the opposite, actually. There was an earnestness in her expression, like she genuinely believed she was offering him something of value. But her words were so loaded with double meanings that Jason had no idea how to process them. I'll make you strong, she continued, the tone of her voice dropping to something more intimate, more personal. I will show you pleasures unknown to your kind. You will be empowered by my gifts. Jason blinked and held up a hand, feeling an awkward flush creep across his face. Listen. I don't know what kind of gifts you're talking about, But I don't think I'm interested in. No? You don't want my gratitude? Zaira interrupted, her eyes wide, as if she couldn't fathom the idea that someone wouldn't want what she was offering. Jason ran a hand over his face, letting out an exasperated sigh. I'm just trying to be a decent guy, all right? I let you in because you were freezing. That's it. You don't have to. He cut himself off, realizing how awkward this conversation was becoming. The last thing he needed was to get involved in some intergalactic misunderstanding about alien gratitude. Zaira leaned back against the couch, her expression turning thoughtful as she seemed to consider his words. I understand, she said, her voice suddenly softer. You do not know how to accept my offering yet. But I will show you. Soon. Jason stared at her, wondering just how many misunderstandings she was packing into that one sentence. Yeah, okay, but let's just keep it simple, all right? You're cold. I gave you warmth. That's it. No need to make it weird. Zaira, however, wasn't deterred. She gave him a look that made Jason feel like he was missing something important. It is not weird to offer yourself to another when you have the means, she said cryptically. On my planet, we show our gratitude through intimate exchange. Jason's mind went into overdrive. Wait, he said, holding up both hands now. Are you offering? Zaira nodded, her glowing skin casting soft reflections on the walls. I am offering you everything. My body. My warmth. My knowledge. All of it. Jason's eyes widened, the gravity of the situation beginning to sink in. I think there's been a huge mix-up here, he stammered. You're not. I'm not looking for anything like that. I'm just trying to help. You crashed, and you're freezing. This isn't some kind of alien mating ritual, is it? Zaira blinked at him, clearly not understanding the concept of mating ritual in the way he meant. Her expression was a mixture of confusion and amusement. Mating ritual? No. This is not a ritual, human. This is affection. It is how we bond with others. She leaned forward again, her eyes locking with his. I want you to feel my warmth. I want you to understand. Jason wasn't sure if he was supposed to be turned on or terrified. His mind raced, trying to figure out what was going on. This wasn't just some innocent alien trying to get warm. This was a woman who clearly didn't understand the boundaries of earthly social norms. And now she was offering him something intimate? And here he was, just a regular guy, not looking for anything except to get some sleep and finish his latest car project. No. Jason muttered to himself, pacing away from her. This isn't happening. I'm not some intergalactic, whatever. Zaira watched him with a bemused look, her head tilting again as she processed his words. You do not want to accept my gifts? But you are not yet strong. You need more connection. More energy. Jason stopped pacing and turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Energy? What the hell are you talking about? Energy, she repeated with calm certainty. Humans are full of energy, no? You use it to survive. You need it to function. You are weak without it. But I can offer you more powerful energy. Energy that will make you strong beyond your imagination. Jason stared at her, now feeling like he was deep in some weird sci-fi movie. So you're saying that by, whatever this energy exchange is, you think it'll make me stronger? Zaira nodded, her voice serene and confident. Yes. That is the way of my people. The more we bond with others, the stronger we become. Jason wasn't sure whether to laugh or run for the hills. I don't know what your idea of bonding is, but here on Earth, it's a little more complicated than whatever this is. Zaira, undeterred, stood up and slowly walked toward him, her gaze fixed on his face. Her movements were graceful, almost hypnotic, and as she drew closer, Jason's unease only grew. I have studied your kind. You humans crave connection. You long for warmth, intimacy, understanding. I can give you all of this. You need only accept it. Jason's heart raced, his palms sweaty. Listen, Zaira, he said, taking a step back. I'm just a mechanic, okay? I fix cars and machines. That's what I know. I don't need whatever it is you think you're offering. He glanced around the room, desperate to find something to distract him from the strange intensity of the moment. I'm just trying to get some sleep. Zaira's face fell slightly, her eyes clouding with a mixture of confusion and disappointment. I do not understand. You reject me. Why? Jason ran a hand through his hair, the situation spiraling faster than he could comprehend. I'm not rejecting you. I'm not ready for whatever this is, okay? We need to take things slow. He took a deep breath, trying to regain some sense of control. I'm just trying to be a good guy. You're in my house. You crashed. You're freezing. I helped you. That's all. For the first time, Zaira seemed to truly take in what he was saying. Her face softened, the intensity in her eyes dimming as she sat back down, clearly processing the unfamiliar concept of boundaries. You are not like the others, she said quietly. Most would not hesitate. They would take what I offer. Jason stared at her, his heart thudding in his chest. I'm not most people. Zaira studied him for a long moment before nodding slowly. I see. Then I will wait. But remember, human, I will not always be patient. Jason swallowed hard, unsure whether to be relieved or more nervous. All he wanted now was a cup of coffee and a long night's sleep. But something told him, deep down, that the strange alien woman wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Jason's mind was a whirlwind. His body still held the aftershock of the strange encounter in his small cabin. Despite his best efforts to rationalize the situation, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger than simple alien hospitality was at play here. Zaira, the alien woman, was clearly offering him something far more intimate. And no matter how many times he told himself to ignore the allure of her words, to keep things casual, it only seemed to make her more determined. She sat in his living room now, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light, still warm from the heater. Her presence filled the space, even though her words were now much quieter. She seemed content to wait for his decision, whatever that decision might be. The problem was, Jason wasn't sure what decision he was supposed to be making. She wasn't just looking for a place to stay, she was offering him everything. I'm sorry if I confused you earlier, Zaira said, her voice soft and sincere now, which only added to Jason's growing sense of unease. I am not used to humans. My world is different. But I want to understand you. You said you would help me. I want to help you in return. Jason ran his hand through his hair, trying to process the situation. I get it. You're cold, you crashed, and you're probably just trying to find a way to fix your ship. That's why I helped you. But this? He gestured around the room, indicating the strange energy she was emitting, the unspoken tension. This isn't why I helped. I didn't think I was offering this. Zaira tilted her head, her wide, glowing eyes studying him with a mixture of curiosity and something that felt almost like affection. I don't understand. On my planet, when we are helped, we give back. It is how we show gratitude. You saved me. You gave me warmth. I wish to give you my own warmth. She placed her hand over her chest, where the faint glow of her bioluminescent markings pulsed. Jason tried to remain calm. I get that, but I don't need whatever it is you think you're offering. I'm not asking for a reward. Zaira's face fell. It was a brief, fleeting moment, but it hit Jason right in the chest. So you don't want what I can give you? You do not wish to be stronger? Her voice wavered as she stood, moving closer to him, her body language still undeniably inviting. Jason took a step back, raising his hands. It's not about wanting to be stronger. I'm not in some competition here. I just want to make sure you're okay. He suddenly felt ridiculous, standing there, trying to explain himself to an alien who didn't seem to understand basic human boundaries. And yet he knew that on some level, he wasn't quite being honest with himself. There was something magnetic about her, something alluring in the way she looked at him, but it didn't change the fact that he was out of his depth. "I am okay," Zaira said, her voice growing more determined. "You helped me. You gave me shelter, and now I want to show you my gratitude." Her lips curled into a teasing smile. "I am very good at giving." Jason's throat tightened. The air between them felt charged with something he wasn't ready to face. "I don't need this, not like this." Zaira stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "I am not asking for something difficult, human. You think it is a burden. But for us, it is a gift. I promise you will feel better after." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Jason's heart raced, his palms sweaty. There was no denying the attraction. Zaira was gorgeous, alien or not, and there was something about the way she moved, the way she spoke, that made him second-guess every decision he made in the last 10 minutes. "You don't get it," Jason said, taking another step back. "I didn't save you so you could repay me with whatever you think you're offering. I'm just trying to be decent." Zaira's eyes softened, her expression becoming more vulnerable than Jason had seen so far. "I see. You do not trust my offering because you do not understand my world." She stepped back, giving him space for the first time. "I will not pressure you. But you must understand, in my world, gratitude is given freely." Jason ran a hand over his face. "I can't. I don't know what your world is like, Zaira, and that's the problem. I don't know what you think you're offering, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of connection." He let out a breath. "You don't just give someone your body like it's a gift." Zaira stood silently, her face unreadable for a moment before she spoke again, softer now. "I am sorry. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable." She lowered her gaze to the floor, almost as if she were ashamed. Jason felt a pang of guilt. She didn't seem to be trying to manipulate him, she genuinely seemed to be confused. Her culture didn't seem to work in the same way as his. She didn't understand why he was hesitating. To her, this was just a normal way to express gratitude, not a sexual advance. "I'm sorry too," Jason said, his voice gentler now. I don't think I'm ready for anything like that. But I'll help you get your ship fixed, I'll help you get out of here, without any of that." Zaira looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for some trace of insincerity. But she found none. Slowly she nodded. "You are a kind human. I will respect your wishes." Her words were quiet, sincere, but there was a lingering sense of disappointment in them. Jason exhaled in relief. "Thanks. I do not fully understand," she said after a pause, "but I will learn. Your customs are strange, but I will adapt. You have shown me mercy, and I will repay it in the way I know how. I will help you too." Jason was taken aback. "What do you mean?" She looked up at him with a soft, confident smile. "You helped me survive. Now I will help you thrive." The words were cryptic, but there was something about them that felt promising. Jason wasn't sure if he fully understood her yet, if he ever would, but at least they were on the same page now, for the most part. He nodded slowly. "All right, Zaira. Let's start with fixing that ship of yours. And no reward this time, okay?" She grinned, a mischievous glint in her eye. "We shall see, human. We shall see." Jason couldn't help but smile back, despite himself. He didn't know what the future held, but somehow, he was beginning to look forward to finding out. Even if that future involved more confusion, more strange alien encounters, and perhaps, more unusual offers of gratitude. Jason stared at Zaira, a mix of awe and confusion swirling in his chest. He wasn't sure what to make of her, or the strange dynamics that had unfolded between them. What started as a straightforward rescue mission had morphed into something far more complicated, though not entirely unpleasant. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, a tension that neither seemed able, or willing, to ignore. Zaira, despite her alien nature, had an energy about her. She was intelligent, adaptable, and most notably, charming. The more time he spent with her, the more he found himself drawn in by her presence. And every time she smiled or winked, Jason's resolve seemed to weaken just a little more. So, about the ship, Jason said, trying to keep his thoughts focused on the task at hand. The longer she stayed here, the more intense things seemed to get. She'd barely left his side since the night she'd crashed into his life, and while he appreciated her company, he wasn't sure how much longer he could ignore the way she made him feel. Her strange offers, her insistence that he was somehow deserving of rewards, were beginning to feel less like cultural misunderstandings and more like invitations he didn't know how to handle. The ship, Zaira repeated, her expression turning serious. She glanced out the window, her face softening as she looked at the stars. I need to leave soon, Jason. I cannot stay here forever. Jason shifted uncomfortably, avoiding her gaze. Yeah, I get that. But there's no way you're leaving until we figure out how to fix that thing. Zaira nodded, though there was an odd sadness in her eyes. I appreciate your help. I know you have many other things to do. You are kind to give me your time. Jason rubbed his neck, feeling the weight of her gratitude bearing down on him. It's nothing, really. Just a couple of tools and a little patience. We'll get it done. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against his arm in an almost casual way, but Jason felt it like an electric jolt. I want you to know, Jason, Zaira's voice dropped an octave, that I don't take your kindness for granted. Not at all. Humans, you are so strange, but there is something in your hearts that draws me. Jason froze. He wasn't sure if he was more alarmed by the intensity of her words or the implication of what she might mean. I'm just helping you fix your ship, Zaira. That's all. Zaira smiled, but it wasn't the playful grin she had worn before. This one felt deeper, more meaningful. I know. But kindness is something special, Jason. You have no idea what it means to someone like me. When I offer what I offer, I want to ensure that you understand it. Jason gulped. This was the point where his resolve started to crumble. What was she offering? Was it the same thing she had been talking about all along, or was this something new? It wasn't just physical anymore, he could sense that. There was a strange emotional depth in her tone, something that stirred a part of him he hadn't thought about in a long time. I'm not asking for anything from you, he said quickly, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm just trying to do what's right, you know. You're an alien, I'm a human, and we just need to get you back to your people. Zaira studied him for a long moment, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. It was as though she was looking right through him, seeing something that he couldn't quite understand. Jason, she whispered, her voice soft but insistent. You think you are doing this out of kindness? And you are. But I know you. You are not just helping me. You are also searching for something. Jason blinked. What? I can see it in your eyes. You are lonely, she said gently, her hand brushing against his again. This time, there was no mistaking the intent behind the gesture. She wasn't just reaching out for his arm, she was reaching out to him. You think you are helping me, but perhaps you are also asking for something in return. Something you don't know you need yet. Jason didn't know how to respond to that. He stood there, his chest tight, the air between them growing more charged by the second. Could she be right? Was he searching for something? He had been alone for a long time, ever since the end of his last relationship. He wasn't sure if that made him vulnerable, or just human. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he felt the lie hanging in the air. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was more to his decision to help her than simple decency. Zaira smiled at him softly, almost as though she were savoring the moment. You do not have to say it aloud. I can feel it. You are yearning for connection. You do not have to be afraid of it. Jason's breath hitched. He could feel his heart pounding, his pulse racing. This was too much. She was too much. Every word she spoke, every gesture she made, was an invitation he couldn't ignore. And yet, somehow, he felt like he needed to. I'm not afraid, Zaira, he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. I just think you're making things complicated. Complicated? Zaira raised an eyebrow. Jason, nothing is complicated unless you choose for it to be. You and I. She paused, her smile widening. We are already connected. There is nothing complicated about that. Jason's mind reeled. Was she really saying what he thought she was saying? Zaira, he began, his voice hoarse. I can't. I'm not ready for this. For whatever you think this is. Her expression softened. I understand. I will not force you into anything, Jason. But know this, the offer will always be there. You are kind, and I will never forget what you've done for me. She stepped back, taking a breath. Let us fix my ship, and perhaps we will understand each other better. Jason nodded, trying to clear the fog in his head. Right. The ship. We'll fix it. Then you can go back home, and we'll both move on. Zaira smiled, but it wasn't the playful smile she had once shown him. It was something deeper, something more knowing. You think you want to move on, Jason, but sometimes the things we fear the most are the things we need the most. She turned toward the door, her voice drifting to him one last time. I'll wait. When you are ready, Jason, I will be here. Jason watched her leave, his heart still pounding, his thoughts scattered. He wasn't sure what was happening between them, but one thing was certain. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to be easy to forget.